Hey, people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa here? I know him.
Oh, my gosh.
Deborah always surprises me.
From the movie Elf.
I just saw that movie for the first time not too long ago. So he's not my cup of tea too much, but that's a funny show.
That is a great movie.
It's I think is a stretch, but it's good.
Well, nobody really cares.
It's an okay movie in Steven's book.
It's just that his humor is kind of. It's just not.
Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite?
Not my cup of tea.
Okay, all right. So he's not your. Who's your favorite artist?
His name used to be Prince. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say it because the artist formerly known as Prince.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh, I don't know if I have a favorite comedian anymore. Oh well. But let's do
his answers have explained enough. It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
It is true, Jim. My answers have said enough.
As it said on as Abe Simpson said to Homer, one day I was once with it. I was with it. And one day, and all of a sudden, things got scary and weird, and it'll happen to you.
It is true.
Yeah, I'm hip.
And I still think that Fred Flintstone is hip. That's how hip I am. Okay.
I like the Flintstones.
I know. Ooh, I like the Flintstones.
Stop it. Merry Christmas, everybody
Merry
out there
Christmas,
just tuning
everybody.
in.
That's right. And remember now, next Saturday on this station at 10 o'clock, we're going to be interviewing Jim Morisi, our trusted professional of the day.
That's right.
So join us next Saturday at 10 o'clock. Okay, this segment, I want to talk about I always talk about what goes on in my office. So this week was good in that I had a gentleman that came in, and he listens to our show. And I was talking about another case that I helped.
Did he ask about Jim?
Did he?
He did ask about Jim. Anyway.
Because I could sell him an amazing home in 2019. I'll tell you about that later.
That's true. But the...
Telling them about them later or selling them the home?
No, it's all true, Jim. Everything's true.
Yes.
But anyway, I wanted to talk about it because this guy came to see me. He was listening to our show, and he heard me discuss a woman who hired me to help her because she hadn't filed her tax returns in 6 or 7 years, even though she thought that she didn't owe any money. Okay, and this is what happens is that when you don't file your tax returns and the IRS owes you money, well, guess what? They'll leave you alone. Because they don't want you to file, because they don't want to pay you. After 3 years and you haven't filed your tax returns, then they get to keep it. You can't get your refund. Okay, so if you haven't filed in the last couple of years and you have a refund and it's too much trouble for you to do your tax returns, well, then you should just hire us and then we'll do your tax returns. I can get all the information from the IRS, your 1099s, your W-2s, all of that stuff. I can get it from the IRS. You don't even have to give it to me. So you don't even have to get it together. I can get it together. But he was listening to the show and we were discussing this case, this specific case where she hadn't filed for 5 or 6 years. And what happens, as I mentioned, the IRS doesn't care if you have a refund, but if you have some other income that you don't account for, and in this woman's case was she sold some stocks, and this is what rang the bell with him because he sold some stocks also, and when you sell stocks and you don't account for it, the IRS will account for it for you, and they don't account for it correctly because they don't have all the information. So, for instance, when I sell a stock for $100 and I bought it for $90, I only have a $10 profit and I have to pay tax on that $10. But if the IRS doesn't know I paid $90 for that stock, they say I didn't, that it was all 100% a profit. To all $100. So now they're going to tax me on $100, not just $10. So that's 10 times more than I really earned, and your taxes will be 10 times more than you think they're going to be, and so this is a problem because now they're going to come after you and try to collect on this debt that you actually don't owe, but as soon as they assess it, then you do owe it. Now, luckily, there are things you can do to go back and redo your tax, and I guess not redo it because you haven't done it, but to go back and change that, what they call an SFR, substitute for return. This is what happens with the IRS. So in this case, this gentleman heard me talking about that case, and exactly the same thing happened to him. He had just received documents from the IRS. They sent him some notices for some time that he had also sold stock. The difference is that, and he had 2 years where he hadn't filed, and then he was filing, but he wasn't including some 1099s. So when you don't include some 1099 income or some other income, and you file your tax return, now remember, an SFR happens when you don't file your tax return, they file it for you. Well, if you don't report something on your tax return, then they do what they call a deficiency, and they discover a deficiency, and they send you a notice of deficiency, and they say, listen, this is what we think. This is what you said. You said that this is how much you made. We think you made this much. And then they give you an opportunity to object and appeal. Well, once that time lapses and you do not object or appeal, then they deem it as earned, and that's the finding. That's the assessed tax, and you really don't have an opportunity to argue that anymore. It's kind of like a judgment. If you get a notice of a summons for a court case, someone suing you, and you don't go to court, they get what they call a default judgment against you, and because you say, "Hey, this is just false. They're making this stuff up. It's all untrue. I'm not even going to dignify this with a response." Well, if I don't respond, then the judge will deem it all admitted and correct, and they'll get a judgment against you. Once they get a judgment against you, same thing here, right? Once they find a deficiency against you, you have an opportunity to appeal. If you do not appeal, there's a time certain that then the judgment is set. Now they're going to start coming after you for the money, and they're going to garnish your wages. They're going to freeze your bank account, and you're going to step forward and you're going to say, these allegations are false. But it's too late. And same thing here. The IRS will get this deficiency and say, hey, now you owe this much. And if you don't appeal in the right time, they'll say, well, this is what you owe. And you can come back and say, wait a minute, I don't owe that much money. This is all false. It's too late now. Okay, so when you get the stuff from the IRS, open the mail. And it seems so obvious, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's scary, Everybody sees it. Oh, my gosh. It's out, and then they put it on the... Listen, I understand. All of a sudden you get that piece of mail and you're like, I intend on opening up, but I need a second. I need to go figure it. And all of a sudden life catches up to you and you just forget about it, right? And it starts building up and it just starts getting lower and lower in the pile. And next thing you know, you got an issue.
That's
just open it up right away.
Well, and I agree, and this is what happens: is people don't open up their mail, and so many people come to see me, and they got a stack of IRS mail, and they haven't opened it yet, or they'll admit to me, "I just opened it in the car on the way here," and they haven't really looked to see they're all the same, and the answer is they're not all the same. Right? There's a series of letters that the IRS will send to you. Some of it is just a warning, and they're trying to collect. Some of it sounds threatening, but it's not. But they don't have the authority to start taking things away from you. Some of it says, "Hey, if you don't respond to this within 30 days, we're going to start taking stuff away from you." And that's the letter you got to worry about. So they're all different, and they look alike, they sound alike, but they are different. Don't
test them.
They are different.
Don't test them either, because they'll do it. How many of those have you seen throughout your years of doing this where it's just like, I'm under the radar. Don't worry about me.
I love that term. I'm under the radar. There is no radar, okay? We have computers these days. You're in the system. I was telling this gentleman the same thing. The IRS is like a destroyer, okay? It takes some time for that destroyer to turn their guns on you. And in the meantime, you think that they don't see you. But once they get locked on you and they start unloading their guns on you, now it's too late. Okay, you can't get away from it. And the same thing with the IRS. It's going to take them some time to get to you. But when they get to you, they will focus on you and they will destroy you. See what I did there, Jim?
Oh.
That's what happens. So don't let it happen to you. And this, again, if this story rings a bell to you, then you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. Or visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be giving you that number very shortly if you're just tuning in. And if you are just tuning in, go to watchtalkradio.com. You're going to be able to watch our podcast. But don't let the IRS come up on you and sneak up on you, and take care of the situation now. Open tax resolution. 312-664-6649, or visit chicagotaxteam.com. It's going to be your hub to fight the IRS. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show lined up for you today. Merry Christmas to every one of you out there. I know we're going to keep saying that because it's Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. So stay merry, stay jolly, and come on back on AM 560.
The answer.